Hello and welcome to the best feed ever. I'm your host, the ASD guy. Let's get right to reading my feed on Twitter. Twitter is probably the best place for me to get the best feed. Matt Iglesias says Matt Walsh says high grocery prices are key vulnerability for Trump. Andrew Colvett says expensive Chipotle doesn't hurt either. Thyssen defends Trump. Vance calls Thyssen fat. Interesting story. Rich Greenfield from Lightshed says CEO Jeff Green on why he bought 150 million of stock personally. Wall Street is wrong. The trade press is wrong. Amazon DSP is overrated. And then he says, remember when TTD CEO Jeff Green bought Trade Desk stock to signal confidence in the company's future? He bought 150 million. I'm not sure what MM means. Is it million or billion? I don't know what that means. At $25 in March of 2026. After hours today, 14.50 and sinking lower. No competition, huh? I guess Trade Desk isn't a good company. Sassafras Ash says humidity currently unbearable. I'm gonna check if this is still recordings. It's my first video I'm making about this, my Twitter feed. Daniel S. Loeb says many of the loser children of my wealthy friends who see no way to emulate the success of their parents have gravitated toward Mandamiism and found community and a sense of purpose by rejecting capitalism as a way to cope with their own failure. Please note that they have. Let me click on. Please note that they have not. That they have nor, however, rejected their trust funds or living subsidies while pursuing their passions in NGOs, dabbling in the arts, or trying to invest in their parents' money in VC, venture capital. Then Pythia Capital responds to that by saying, retweets it, requotes it, and says, many of the very hardworking friends I have that are not well off, come from poor families, have also gravitated toward Mandami, in a few cases while working two jobs. Maybe, just maybe, there's something more to it than just spoiled rich kids. And I ask this as someone staunchly against Mandami's policies. Economy stuff. Josh Cohn says, Gavin Newsom's PAC has a new effort to help elect Democrats and spread the gospel of Newsom by training supporters to implant his talking points into family text chats, alumni Facebook groups, and other places where politics isn't typically discussed. From the New York Post. Nate Silver responds to that saying, FYI, the only humane policy is a lifetime ban from group chat to anyone who does this. Buco Capital Bloke says, software investing is so funny because almost none of these businesses make any money, so you're mostly investing in vibes and the future. It's incredibly easy to benchmark and compare, which creates the illusion that these businesses are similar when really they are incredibly different. Well, almost none of these businesses can make any money, so you're mostly investing in vibes. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Many investors have never had a real job, don't know what software actually does, and have never used almost any of it. Add in some AI fear-mongering, and these stocks have been whipping up and down literally 50 to 100% every couple months. Quite the opportunity to either make a bunch of money or get your head blown off, clean blown off. RNC Research says Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed says every third video on his Instagram timeline is an OnlyFans model and blames the algorithm. The things I actually look at on Instagram every third video. That's interesting. Kathy Reisenwitz responds, the biggest whorephobes are always low-key obsessed with us. Yeah, she's right. Why is he looking at porn on there? Sometimes I get these promoted tweets. I have to look at the corner to see that it's promoted. John Ehrlichman says, on this day in 1997, Microsoft saved Apple from bankruptcy by investing $150 million in Apple. It's good. It's a move. Daniel says, I should be the next product lead at X. This is so painfully obvious it feels dumb to even say it. Taylor Lorenz responds, canned by Elon in 2022 to return as product lead in 2026, the comeback story America needs. Lauren Galaxy says, if any friends are in Star Trek Las Vegas, get the free Magic the Gathering Star Trek swag. Can you let me know? The best feed ever. I'm only giving you the best feed ever. Lucas Shaw says, the talks between Paramount and the NFL over a new deal have stopped while David Ellison deals with this Warner Brothers lawsuit. KGB says, interesting, but I'm not sure how it works. I think part of Columbus's success has been a similar framing, but with a bigger region, including Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Toledo, and Detroit, as well as much of what's here. Ironically, part of what relied on Cleveland's lack of Big Four sports. Aaron M. Wren says, yes, Ohio looks more like Indiana now, where the centrally located state capitals is the hub, to the extent that there is one. Indianapolis's tentacles are more extended out into the rest of the state than they used to be, but I expect Columbus are too. Migration from Cleveland is a good example. Chuck Todd says, not to nitpick at the headline writer, but I'm sure this isn't a secret anything anymore. And there, he's posting a New York Times article saying CIA sets up secret Cuba task force as Trump pressures Havana. Okay. New Liberals says we might lose a blue Senate seat in Michigan because of crappy pollsters and some of the most petty political consultants in the world supporting a spoiler primary candidate. Bill Simmons says, I still can't believe Contreras didn't unalive that guy. And there's a clip of a guy running to first base, and I can't see. Contreras is the first baseman for the Red Sox. I'm a fan of the Red Sox, just like Bill Simmons is. I guess he kind of ran into him on arm to arm. It's not that big of a deal. Bill Simmons makes a big deal about nothing, I think. There's a Walter Piecyk posted a graph, said the U.S. robo-taxi market 1 year from now. And it says every Uber partner at its best case. Waymo alone in the top right, the bench huddled in the bottom left. Waymo gets 10,000 cars in service, best case, while the other companies are about 100 cars, or maybe around 0 to 100 cars in service, best case. Does that include Tesla? Probably includes Tesla. Okay. And he's showing the Uber technology stock. It costs $70 right now. It's up 3%. Walter says autonomy in a year. And Uber is being left behind by Waymo. And it's actually a quote tweet. Walter Piecyk says, Uber's Waymo divorce could get expensive. 4 ways Dara can prepare. So yeah, okay, I see. Melinda Deslate says, read that. Nah, I'm not going to read that. So somebody's like, I don't think I should read. Not going to read that. Read that because it's just 2 big words. Sam Lesson says hyperinflation in summer travels. Every summer I end up tooling around the country checking out different pretty fancy places, and the verdict on 2026 is in. Hyper-local hyperinflation is at an all-time high. A turkey sandwich costs $20 across the country in vacation spots. Muffins start at $6. Don't even get me started on beach toys. It's comical. I am fine with it. This is the market working. He goes on for like 5 more paragraphs to talk about it. And then Antonio Garcia Martinez replies with, this is just the third worldization of the U.S. Developing countries are similar. It's just the third worldization of the U.S. Developing countries are similar. We aren't a Gaussian distributed middle class society anymore. Americans aren't used to it, so they're recoiling. But the U.S. Gini coefficient is about that of Morocco or Peru. Politics is, of course, downstream of this. That's really interesting. So our political inequalities, like much of South America right now, or like Africa, or really third world countries, our inequality is really high right now. That's really interesting. And he posted a chart of where, of comparing U.S. to a lot of South American countries, a lot of African countries, a lot of Middle East countries. We have pretty similar inequality with third world countries. That's interesting for Antonio to say. Let's see what's next here. No, I'm not going to read that. Skip the promo stuff. Buco Capital Bloke says, who is selling DoorDash because it's investing in the business? Like, oh no, this incredible growth business run by amazing executives with an unlimited TAM is investing in their company. My thesis is breaking. It's broken. Get real. See ya. Go buy memory stocks, lol. Rich Greenfield says, breaking, Jeff Green has discovered a new microenvironment that Rich Greenfield of Lightshed, I should say. Jeff Green has discovered a new microenvironment that only impacts the trade desk, while somehow leaving Meta, Google, Amazon, Reddit, Pinterest, and Roku completely unscathed. Remarkable phenomenon. 12 Rats at a Keyboard says, the vibe on Abdul El Sayed Twitter would be a lot different right now if there hadn't been a week of polling priming everyone for a blowout. Nothing in the race has actually gone that horrible for him yet. He's just not getting double-digit mandate numbers. Nate Silver says as a reply, right, if he wins by any margin, it's still very impressive in an objective, non-expectations adjusted sense. It's also stupid AF for him to release a bunch of internals showing himself up 13 or whatever. I haven't followed the race that much. I don't know what's going on personally. Take Him says, a quote from the Wall Street Journal, some of the fund's backers had grown frustrated before the recent turmoil and has warned Ashton Brenner about the risks of leverage, according to people familiar with the situation. Some also were frustrated by what they viewed as his lack of communication and disclosure. Some of the people said, situation will disclose its returns to investors only on a quarterly basis. I don't know what company he's talking about. Sorry, I must have missed it. And Pythia Capital, partially conductive, says as a reply, I love how institutions are simultaneously like, OMFG, I can't believe you didn't communicate with me daily about my 4 times levered investments, but also, oh my god, yes, Daddy, Schwartzman lock up my funds for 12 years and tell me nothing material about any of the 6 times levered widget manufacturers I own. Bunch of clowns. Brenna Ehrlich says, almost emailed someone, sorry to fester. I'm glad I have a few days. The quote was sorry to fester, end quote. Then she says, I'm glad I have a few days off coming up. She needs a break, I guess. Holiday Kirk says, I can't think of a song that has dive-bombed in critical acclaim during my lifetime like John Lennon's Imagine. Stephen Hayden says, as a reply, when I was growing up, Imagine was this song you hated because boomers wouldn't shut up about how profound it was. But now it's tipped the other way, where millennials won't shut up about how much it sucks. Interesting. Hollis Robbins says, a university like Cambridge that has understood and embraced AI technology would have been able to thoroughly assess the quality of scholarship without human weakness, not plagiarism, methodological rigor. Give some of the work to Claude and you'll see for yourself. Taylor Loren says, my YouTube thumbnails look like S, and I need someone who is familiar with tech business YouTube space who can help create a few plug and play templates. I can just swap out images every week on Canva. Does anyone know who'd be down to help me with that favor? Aaron M. Wren says, the AI future is going to be created by the people who show up and build it, not the ones who opt out. Vampire Regon says, in 20 years from now, there's going to be a slur for kids whose parents met on Hinge. Cal, replies, says, straight people be like, what if there's a slur because someone you love? Miranda says, babied by bangs by accident, and now I have a side part and insist it's a baby side bang in sort of French way. Everybody pour one out for me. Bree says, my granddad used to say, half of the day's already gone if you wake up after 9 a.m., and I thought it was so funny and dramatic, but I get it now. Lucas Shaw says, we're going to do a reader mailbag this month for Scream Time. I don't care about that show. Blah, blah, blah. New Liberals says, every Democratic group in this unnecessary knife fight should take a hard look about whether they're helping Republicans flip a Democratic Senate seat in a blue wave years. I think he quoted a poll saying Rogers is up by 5% against El Said. New Liberals retweeted that, re-upping this for no particular reason. Sarah Fisher says Disney says it's sold out of its Super Bowl. I don't know what that number is. 56. I don't know what that is. Drawing 58 brands across 34 Super Bowl 58 inventory across 34 distinct categories. 9 of these brands are advertising in the Super Bowl for the first time. Jane Austen says, you're too generous to trifle me. If your feelings are still what they were last April, tell me so at once. My affections and wishes are unchanged, but one word from you will silence me on the subject forever. Blah, blah, blah. John Ehrlichman says expected annualized sales growth over the next 5 years. Micron's going to grow 54% in 5 years. SK Hynix is going to grow 48%. AMD is going to grow 44%. Astera is going to grow 41%. Broadcom is going to grow 40%. ARM is going to grow 39%. Credo is going to grow 39%. Marvell Technologies is going to grow 32%. NVIDIA is going to grow 31%. Monolithic Power is going to grow 25%. TSMC is going to grow 24%. Applied Materials is going to grow 20%. LAM is going to grow 19%. ASML is going to grow 19%. KLA is going to grow 18%. Source, average analyst estimates. I don't read the tweets I'm not interested in. Or I don't read promotions for their websites. Nate Silver says the implied projection from prediction markets is El Said eventually winning by 4, though a larger win or a Stevens win remain possible. That would reflect a pretty big polling error, though I doubt AES will care so long as he wins. I don't know who AES is. What he's talking about. Then the Daniel S. Loeb quote tweet says, "Many loser children of my wealthy friends will gravitate toward Mamdani." That tweet, Matt Iglesias quoted it saying, "Should make his rich friends and their spoiled kids pay higher taxes." It's true. Buco Capital Bloke says, "Team from..." I'm not going to read it. I don't understand. If I don't understand what he's talking about, I'm not going to read it. The New York Times says, breaking news, scientists have used AI to create new viruses for the first time, raising hopes for medical advances while also raising the possibility that the technology could someday be used to invent dangerous pathogens. Then Taylor Lorenz responded to that saying, Thankfully, the American public doesn't care about mitigating novel viruses, so we should be fine." Aaron M. Wren says, "The problem of most super region or mega regional analysis is that they draw cool maps, but are seldom specific as to the actual connections between these places in terms of migration, commuting, finance, flows, supply chain, immigrations, etc." As a reply to that, he says, "Indy, Cincinnati, Louisville are only about 100 miles from each other, but they appear to have little interaction or connection apart from Reds or Kings Island as regional draws. Much easier to show Indy's connection to Chicago as business capital leads to urban hierarchy." Bree says, "Feel like if you in a relationship with a man, you automatically get bird, or just up to you to decide which kind: ostrich, dove, swan, chicken, hummingbird, etc." That's it. Do I follow that guy? No, I'm not reading this guy. I don't follow. I'm not reading that either. If I don't know what he's talking about, I'm not going to read it. Patrick Klepek says, for his crossplay blog, "I have brief thoughts on recent stories on new social media laws, screen time guilt, and algorithm experiments. Think of it as a commentary on a bunch of stories that made my stomach churn this week." Link below. Bill Simmons says he hates this to Jaylen Brown, as in his picture shown holding up a jersey for the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't follow any of these people. Why are they... Oh, jeez, I'm on the For You. How long have I been on the For You this entire time? Arizona poll governor Katie Hobbs at 52%, Andy Biggs at 44%. In a world where 85% of seats are safe, everyone in politics is increasingly trained to value things that are helpful in winning primaries, being exciting, having the juice, media savvy, vertical video. Meanwhile, the boringest people on earth win general elections. Matthew Zaitlin says can't really knock AES for underperforming if he wins by 5. Is AES El Sadid? El Sayed? Okay. A is... I know what the ES is, but where does the A for El Sayed? I don't get that, but... Can't really knock AES for underperforming if he wins by 5 or something because he was probably never doing well in the polls. Said, but why were the polls so good for him? Nate Silver responds saying, a lot of the pollsters in Michigan are hurdy and are bad, but it's a legit hard to race to poll. Black voters, especially working class black voters, can be hard to reach. Young voters may be underrepresented by traditional surveys, but now we've mostly shifted to online panels. Isabel says, you used to be able to buy so many groceries for $35. Sahil Kapoor says, elections matter. A race decided by 0.22 points flipped a Democratic seat to a never-in-doubt vote for Trump's agenda. David McCormick was decisive in passing a big, beautiful bill and confirming Hegseth. He voted to protect Trump's tariffs and allowed Iran war. He's a yes on Blanche. And Josh Barr replies to that, saying, Bob Casey signed on to all of Elizabeth Warren's price control nonsense. I was told that was the kind of economic populism that wins the Rust Belt, but he lost while other swing state Dems held on. Neat says, it's very important that every decision you make brings you one step closer to never using LinkedIn again. Bithia Capital, partially conductive, replies, my compliance department called me and said my LinkedIn was out of date and I had to update it, and I responded that my password had expired and the email I used to set it up with was not functioning. So the only way to recover it was via phone number that I tried but didn't connect. Nahal Tusi says, a burrito shouldn't cost even $10. Tyler Cowan replies saying, narrator, it doesn't. How much does a burrito cost? I don't know. I don't know how much a burrito costs. I haven't bought burritos or anything. I've been going to McDonald's lately. Slime says Stephen A. Smith went off on Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve for wearing a Trans Kids Belong shirt before the game against the Indiana Fevers and affecting the WNBA brand after Sophie Cunningham said trans people don't belong in women's sports. Miranda replies, you know, this was kind of inevitable based on the bioessentialist perspective within his answer to my question about the male loneliness epidemic. Still a shame. Thomas Wolfe says, I'm not reading that. Aaron Wren expanded on his tweet from earlier. He says, other than long-established hierarchies to Chicago, regional airport, or Detroit autos, or state capitals, there appears to be little cross-metro integration in the Midwest. There's no I-70 corridor, KC, St. Louis, Indy, Dayton, Columbus, Wheeling, PGH, analogous to the Acela I-95 one. Human Progress says spices, which today can be purchased for just a few dollars at any grocery store, once inspired incredible violence. They're so rare to find, I think it was. Bill Simmons says the Red Sox, and a picture of that one comedian from, I forgot the movie, but he's in a few movies. And there's a bunch of numbers are passing by on the screen like he's doing some math really fast. Like on the Red Sox. Reductress says women fostering thrifted short for a little bit before donating it back. Rich Greenfield Lightshed says, will Peacock leapfrog into the number 2 streaming position behind Netflix in 2027? Question mark. Buco Capital bloke says a year ago, he's in November 2025, he says, I don't care how good the business is. I won't own a business called AppLovin. I just won't. I'll have to make my money in some other way. And then he says, as a reply to that, down 50%, total vindication. Octavian says, anyone who's ever worked in an office can tell you that women are straight up better workers than men when it comes to routine tasks where accuracy and attentiveness is needed, like bookkeeping, HR, public officials, law, etc. The best workers tend to be women. In Europe, most finance departments are dominated by women to a ridiculous degree. Young women earn more than young men in many Western countries. The absolutely top jobs like finance management will probably still be mostly done by men, but I fear in 10 years the situation in average jobs will be even more lopsided. Women seeking a provider will become more and more ridiculous because women simply will earn better and have more job security than men. He's quoting an article saying, leading report, stay-at-home boyfriends and husbands are on the rise as women overtake men in U.S. payroll jobs. Buyback Capital, as a reply to Octavian, says, in the future, women will dominate the salaried workforce. A man's job will be to take the savings and gamble them in the stock market, prediction markets, real estate. That's funny, etc. Liv says they hit low-key piano bar. Kathy Risenowitz says, retweeted a post from Lizzie saying, I never experienced the natural feminine drive towards wanting babies as a general desire, but I have experienced he is so smart and strong and attractive and competent and takes such good care of me. I desperately want his babies. There's a lesson for men here who want children. Stephen King says Trump's numbers are in the basement, but he doesn't care. This narcissistic megalomaniac actually believes his poll numbers are the best they've ever been. Next time, be careful who you vote for. Don't do it casually. It does make a difference. Daniel K. Hertz is retweeting a post from Assad from New York City saying it was a post, as an article from thenation.com The title of the article is "The Left Yimbyism of Mandami: Build a lot more while defending tenants." Assad says, "Finally, someone who does both of these things. This will be the left Yimbyism of Mandami: build a lot more while defending tenants." Taylor Lorenz reposted Benjamin S. Reese. Former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is now on Cameo, where you can book her for a low price of $150. Colleen reposted Laura, who says, "It's amazing how much of a 180 I've done on dogs. In my early 20s, I was all into no-kill shelters and, oh no, the poor doggos. I would have defended the rehabilitation of the most effed-in-the-head animal. Now at nearly 40, after having kids, it's like, yeah, just euthanize the dogs. What are we even doing here? People donate good money to this." Colleen reposted that. What? I don't get that at all. I love dogs. DSG Scara says, "Whiff Brown has gotten it's gotten so popular amongst my friends that every single person I was going to help get me the 11 T1 bundle now wants one themselves." Matt Iglesias says, "Michigan polling speculation. In census terms, Arab Americans are white, so if there is an unusually high enthusiasm and thus response rates for a candidate among Arab American voters, you end up with a funky sample of white people that is overweight Arabs." Nate Silver, let's read Emma Vigeland's tweet. "Michigan has open primaries. Mike Rogers have the nomination locked. How many Republicans voted for Stevens?" Nate Silver responds, "Probably not a lot. Michigan also has had a competitive-ish R governor and some competitive R House primaries, and AES would benefit from winning over some D curious Republicans in the general election anyway." Sahil Kapoor says, "Ask Jasmine Crockett last night in St. Louis if she thinks James Tallarico can turn Texas blue this fall. I don't know," she said. Josh Barrow says, "Bitter party of one." Lucas Shaw shares an article from Bloomberg.com. The title says, "Musicians rebel against studios using their songs to train AI." And he says, Lucas says, "Record labels and streaming service startups have signed a bunch of AI deals. Just one problem, many artists haven't opted in." Hollis Robbins says, "Claude has the answer all along. Just take the papers, upload them, and ask about methodology, rigor, and novelty." Charlie XCX says, "When I was younger, one of the only DVDs I had was School of Rock, and I watched the Ish on repeat like hundreds of times. And yeah, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but when you think about it, it all makes sense, doesn't it?" And Stephen Hayden says, "Want to feel old? This is Charlie XCX in 2003, and it shows a picture of the girl from School of Rock." It's funny. Trish says, "I guess you could say I'm a professional Matt Damon thirst tweeter in a way." She tweeted out pictures of Matt Damon from GQ magazine. John Ehrlichman says, on this day in 1991, the first website launched. Charmoose says, make a wish and jump with me. And it shows a lake of shiny water, really teal water. Marcelo P. Lima reposted Elon Musk saying there's no such thing as magic ground that makes some places prosperous and most not. If you teleported the people of Japan to anywhere else, that place would become Japan. Joel Berry says, last night my wife made homemade burritos for our family of 8, and it cost less than $20 total for everyone. I'm beginning to think the affordability crisis is really an I don't know how to cook crisis. Matthew Iglesias responds to that tweet saying, Trump should release all his favorite thrifty recipes, the stuff he and Melania like to make at home. Taylor Lorenz says, does anyone know a good iota carrageenan nose spray that's available in the U.S. now that betadine nose spray seems to be discontinued? Jessica Valenti says, listen to Todd Blanche, Trump's nominee for Attorney General, tell faith leaders that the Justice Department is working with the White House to stop the shipping of abortion pills into banned states. We will have victory. Victory will be soon, and it will be permanent, he said. I'm nervous about that. Alex Tabarrok was retweeted by Tyler Cowen, and he said, a fire hydrant hit me today. You mean you hit a fire hydrant? No, a truck carrying fire hydrants took a corner and one came loose, bounced across the road, and hit my car. Story of my life. No injuries, fortunately. Patrick Klepek says, Ted Lasso is back for another season. But I do not think Ted Lasso knows why it's back for another season. We discussed on Decoding TV. Kathy Rasinowitz says U.S. women over 40 have more babies than teenagers for the first time in history. Tevin Campbell retweeted Matt Rife, says people who are straight up blank to come to you first, then act like you're the A when you return fire. Truly disturbed to be Kurabas. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I'm not going to read that. Lucas Shaw says Netflix is wading into India-Pakistan politics with a South Asian version of Top Gun. And it quoted a Bloomberg.com article saying India's Top Gun is Netflix's most ambitious local production. Matthew Zaitlin says, I think NIMBY as a concept is pretty impoverished when it comes to something like data centers. Yes, there's local opposition because they're ugly and noisy, etc. But what has made this issue break through is that people who live nowhere near them don't want them built either. Matthew Iglesias replies saying, the premise of NIMBY is that people broadly agree that it is necessary and useful for there to be garbage dumps, apartment buildings, bus parking lots, drug treatment centers, etc. somewhere, just not in my backyard. The desirability of AI is fiercely contested. Isabel says, my dream is to be Roadrunner from Looney Tunes. Hunter says the internal polling situation is claiming the Democrats are in margin of error races in both Trump plus 20, Trump plus 31 Arkansas, and Trump plus 0.2 Virginia, LMAO. Nate Silver replies, maybe Silver Bulletin will have to start an annual tradition of worst internal poll of the year, naming and shaming the worst, least accurate poll in the headline. Alright, starting to re-show me tweets. I'm going to stop doing this. Thank you everyone for watching. Let me know if you have any comments. Please subscribe and have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.